Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, shall we start within 2 minutes, sir? Within 2 to 3 minutes, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, shall we start, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Don't
Lakshmi, ma'am.
judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant, says Robert Louis Stevenson. A very good morning to one and all connected here. I welcome you all to the 5th day of the 1-week online faculty development program on exploring new frontiers in chemical and biological science, organized by Marian Star Center, Department of Chemistry, St. Mary's College Autonomous, sponsored by Department of Biotechnology, New Delhi. One song can change a moment. One idea can change a world. One step can start a journey, but a prayer can change even the impossible. Let us invoke God's blessing through this prayer song.
Shall be showers of blessings. This is the promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent from the Savior above. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. Showers of blessing we showers of blessings, send them upon us, O Lord. Grant to us now your refreshing. Come and now honor thy word. Showers of blessings, showers of blessings we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. Showers of blessing.
I feel delighted to invite Dr. G. Amalajodi Grace, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, to accord her cordial words of welcome.
I realize by being a teacher, I'm making an important contribution to all the national development initiatives. That's Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to you all for this 5th day of this International Faculty Development Program on exploring new frontiers in chemical and biological sciences, organized by the Marian Star Center, Department of Chemistry, St. Mary's College, Autonomous Thoothukudi, sponsored by the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, New Delhi. I'm delighted to welcome the resource person of today's session, Dr. Parthiban Marimuthu, Institute of Organic Biohospitals, New Delhi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. Sir is an active personality, a specialist in technology development, field evaluations, regulatory affairs, and IPR patents in chemical and biological pesticides in the field of agrochemicals, vector controls, professional pest control, household insecticides, disinfectants, veterinary parasiticides. Sir also had a rich corporate experience in Sudarshan Chemicals, Coromandel Intact, Godrej Sara Lee, Westergaard Franzen in Swiss, Spahi projects, and many more projects, etc. Sir is an inventor of 2 patents, designed and developed an agro product with a novel life cycle breaker using plant ingredients, and designed novel developed user-friendly viricide impregnated daily replaceable antiviral filter built face mask for effective COVID-19 management. Sir is a sub-grantee of an international technology development project funded by Melinda Bill Gates Foundation. Sir has also developed novel plant ingredients-based broad-spectrum insecticide concentrate and formulation for crop protection and animal veterinary applications. Sir has also developed and registered Fence, a novel insecticide netting device for crop protection in pole crops for Europe. Sir has also strategized for a foreign corporate through Alithrine group of household insecticides, and also won a case of international patent litigation in India. Sir has also strategized the entry for Yangong, China in India. Sir has also developed and registered Permanent 2.0, a novel insecticide impregnated bed net for Africa, Asia, and also in India. Sir has also developed Permanent 3.0, an effective device for controlling resistant malarial vectors for Africa, and also developed a zero fly for long-lasting storage, grain protection for warehouses. And Sir has also registered first time for a non-insecticide based mineral oil formulation for fruit crops, and also developed a therapeutic agent for super fast recovery and healing of chronic diabetic and fire burn wounds. Sir has also developed household and aircraft disinfection aerosol from effective plant ingredients. Sir is a founder of GLP pesticide testing lab, and also developed many testing procedures and protocols for the evolution of patented products. Sir, really, we feel very blessed. We are very happy to have you with us, and we are very much delighted to hear your talk on the fundamentals of oxygen biochemistry with special reference to body immunity. Also, I welcome our secretary sister, Reverend Sister Flora Mary, Principal, Reverend Dr. Sister ASJ Lucia Rose, Deputy Principal, Dr. Sister Colande Teres, Overall Star Coordinator, Dr. Sister Arokya Genesius Alphonse, Head of Chemistry Department, Mrs. Rani J. Mary. I welcome all the participants from various disciplines and from various parts of the country. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for this 5th day of this International Faculty Development Program. We welcome you all. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Now the session is open for photos. I kindly, dear participants, you just open your cameras for a photo session. Dear participants, kindly switch on your camera. Thank you, dear participants. I feel pleasure and honor to invite the resource person of today's session, Dr. Parthiban Marimuthu, Director, Institute of Organic Biohospitals, New Delhi, to share this expertise with us. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to everyone. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Ramala and St. Mary's College professors and management and the participants giving me this opportunity to share a message in terms of some technical inputs which must act as a spark to leads to new concept development, product development, technology development. When an expert is making a presentation on a particular subject, it must create a spark in the minds of participants to develop something or to be useful for as part of life requirements, or it must be a new learning, and that must be the way forward in today's discussion. And I have been seeing most of our participants are in the face masks today, and that's where everywhere. And we are in the last two and a half years, we have been facing a major problem of COVID-19 episode, and this is a COVID era, and which is in the history of in the history of a human era, the worst part of stages that we have been coming across. And there is one thing that we must understand: why this became such a big problem. What is grossly lacking? Is it the fundamentally we are not able to understand, or is it due to the too much dependence on what we call as a modern sophistication, or is it due to the adopted sedentary lifestyle or so-called corporate style of working, and is it due to too much dependence on the medical systems, or is it out of ignorance? We are all educated, but at the same time, as far as the fundamental rights of the body is concerned, we need to be literate. When we are educated, it's quite possible we can try to be literate by recollecting what we have been doing in the last few generations to help us and support us to overcome this kind of a crisis. But we failed. We miserably failed as far as this COVID-19 episode is concerned. We miserably failed. I mean, right from philosopher grades to politicians to medical systems to Nobel laureates to the so-called godfathers to a common man, scientists, educated people. All these category of people who are highly educated, well-to-do, and urban settled population had to undergo a turmoil, and it's an earthquake. And we had seen many tremors, and still the fear is not gone. That's the reason we could see most of our participants are with the face masks as well. Fundamentally, there is one thing which is lacking, which I would like to share with all the colleagues who are present today, and which should make a message to the participants, which will help to understand what I call as the fundamental rights of the body. The topic is fundamentals of oxygen chemistry with special reference to body immunity. But what chemistry we are going to talk? Oxygen chemistry is known. Most of you are well aware. Oxygen role as a biological agent, everyone knows. Oxygen as an element, everyone knows about it, and we know what it does in the cell and what it can help in the reactions. And we know each and everything. The chemistry and biology is well known to all of us. But the problem is, what I am trying to integrate the information that are available and to create a new understanding about what I call as fundamental rights of the body. What is fundamental rights of the body? If we are educated, we are brought up by our parents and forefathers, we know what is the fundamental rights of the body. What we have lost is also the fundamental rights of the body. Today, what we have lost during this COVID-19 episodes, and where we don't know where we stand and what we are going to do, what is next. And there was a big challenge for the entire human race. And more importantly, it was a big challenge for urban population, urbanites, and specifically for educated, highly educated, well-to-do urban populations. Why? I'm again stressing on the points, urban population, educated urban population, because educated urban population has forgotten the fundamental rights of the body. And we have deviated too much away from nature and from the practices of our parents, grandparents, and forefathers. No society is civilized if they appreciate and carry forward the tradition of food culture and health culture. Science has seen a lot of new avenues, and we have been seeing and exploring new technologies, new concepts, new ideas, new products. But what is fundamentally lacking is, have we taken care of our health care system as an individual? Government has got a healthcare system. The hospitals, doctors, nursing, corporate hospitals, medical and insurance, all these for at the point of breakdown, not for the sake of better health. When we have a problem, then we seek the help of a physician or a hospital. Otherwise, every individual has got his own fundamental rights to perform as a human being on this earth, in this particular society, in a particular latitude, particular longitude, with the close interaction with the environmental interaction. That is what I call as the fundamental rights of the body. I'll be getting into the slides which will go through one by one, where there will be definitely a message, but this one thing is very clear. I will be stressing again and again on the fundamental rights of the body, because that is the subject that we are going to connect with the fundamentals of oxygen chemistry with respect to body immunity. As I said earlier, we know the biology of oxygen, we know the chemistry of oxygen, but what we are lacking today, and after the sad episodes of COVID-19, is there are few missing links. As an urban educated population, we must understand, realize, and then take it forward. We know air is important for living things, and no doubt about it. As a population living in urban, rural areas, man knows that air is important for every living being, without which nothing can, because it contains the essential ingredients, mainly oxygen, which gives life to all the biological organisms on this earth, plants and animals. And this gives energy for eating, reproduction, and for life. The air around Earth is a very important component, which gives us the precious element oxygen for survival. It's all around us, what we breathe. Without oxygen, the cells cannot. If deprived, the cells suffocate, and it's mortality of cells. And this is happening in a human body, which are all the tissues which are not getting adequate oxygen. They get suffocated, they underperform, they produce wrong products, and if the oxygen supply is still low, the tissues die. And that also promotes, if the oxygen is less, that also promotes malignant and benign growth, what we can call as cancers and tumors in cells and tissues. We know all these details. Oxygen makes 46% of the Earth's crust and 21% of the atmospheric air. We are quite familiar with all these informations. Oxygen is an omnipresent chemical element in air. And when I talk about oxygen here, the oxygen means the oxygen in air, and the oxygen that we breathe, and the oxygen that we consume from the air. We are not talking about the industrial oxygen or medical oxygen. We are talking about the oxygen in the air that we consume. And all along, the subject is going to be discussing about the oxygen that is in the air that we breathe and that biological organisms use. Again, coming back to the same subject, why was the big hue and cry when we had COVID-19 like episodes? We all were shattered. we were not able to do anything. And all our common sense gone. And we were just looking at the technical sense, technology, and hardwares, and trying to safeguard ourselves and running around hospitals and clinics. And we don't know, most of the time we were indoor under the name of so-called lockdown. And that created a lot of setback in the minds of the people. And what is going to be the future? Am I going to be there tomorrow? It's a very big question mark. Everyone started think about, because we know the episode. See, when we have a blood oxygen levels low, and we in all these circumstances, we know that the oxygen is vital, and these are all the conditions that affects oxygen availability as well, like any lung respiratory diseases and any viral infections or pulmonary edema or fibrosis or even pneumonia, bronchitis. And these are all the situations where the oxygen levels go down. And in these all situations, we need oxygen to be applied externally to safeguard. It's in the lungs. If you have a good amount of oxygen carrying capacity, if the bioavailability of oxygen is better and optimal, even any unwanted microorganism or even cancer cells can be destroyed. And human system has got a wonderful mechanism, provided we perform the fundamental rights of the body. Every organ has got tremendous potential to resist and destroy any unwanted things that is being developed, provided we don't forget our fundamental rights of the body. That means in this context, we should not forget about giving optimal amount of oxygen to our lungs and the body. And how do we measure that? Who can tell what is the optimal level of oxygen that can be supplied? Is there a measurement? There is a scale? Yes, as a semi-arboreal animal, Homo sapiens sapiens has got certain fundamental rights, which is destined by birth as a Homo sapiens sapiens. That is what lacking when we have become educated, well-to-do, and adopted to the so-called corporate lifestyle, whether it is a teaching profession or a medical profession or engineering or agriculture. The moment we are educated, we wanted to adopt to the typical corporate lifestyle, and that has restricted all our physical activities. Otherwise, man is not supposed to fear about the COVID-like infections. See, COVID-like infections, Omicron and variants, this is a very fundamental problem and inherent properties of highly mutable viral particles. Mutation is a common phenomena, and that's happening everywhere inside our body, or with the microbes like virus, or particularly this type of virus, which is highly mutable respiratory virus like SARS-CoV-2, is highly mutable, and it keeps on changing. Its biochemical configuration, and that's the inherent property of this virus. We cannot do anything. It's very difficult to manage this, but at the same time, how to strengthen our lung function capacity, how to increase our immunity so that the virus cannot sustain in our system. That is what we are going to discuss in further slides. I mean, again, we are going to look at what is the fundamental right of our body and how we are going to safeguard ourselves from this kind of mysterious, highly mutable viral diseases. We know each and every of the oxygen property, chemistry, and biology. Oxygen is a well studied subject as well. From standard 1, we have been studying oxygen as an important for life. Oxygen is a catalyst. Oxygen is an antioxidant, and it's a fuel to give energy. And we know there are two major pathways in cells to generate energy. That is oxidative phosphorylation. Another one is glycolysis. Let's look at the environmental oxygen and inflammation part of it. Inflammation is caused by low oxygen levels in cells. And inflammation means any abnormal condition or imbalanced diet, nutrients, or shortage of supply of oxygen to cells, and anything related to hormonal imbalance or climate change, all can cause inflammation in a particular type of cells and organs. And that is what we call as an inflammation here. And inflammation is caused by low oxygen levels in cells. In specific, we are talking about oxygen-related parameters, where oxygen is also important parameter for maintaining inflammation when it is supplied at low levels. Inflammation and environmental oxygen levels are interlinked. It's often accompanied by what we call as hypoxia. This word is very commonly used during COVID-19. Even hypoxia, when it is maintained for a long time, can also cause inflammation. It's well proven in patients. Many different inflamed tissues are found to have lower than normal oxygen levels. And it is proven in preclinical studies in mice models in a particular condition called irritable bowel syndrome. It's a major problem in urbanites. Increased inflammation always correlated with decreased oxygen levels in colon tissues. And in patients specifically with IBD, the increased inflammation, there is always decreased levels of oxygen colon cells. And there is also a clear-cut pattern which is maintained. The stomach, which harbors more than 450 species of beneficial bacteria, has a lot of oxygen. And when further goes down to duodenum and intestine, the oxygen levels is little less. And further in cilium and rectum, the oxygen levels are much, much lower. And this symbolically represents, it's not only lungs that uses oxygen for supplying to all the cells, but also the stomach and stomach living bacteria. The stomach living bacteria all receives oxygen and then pass on, make use of it for their biological reactions to produce all the vital stuff that is created by these microbiota. And the microbiota is contributing a lot to the immunity of the whole body system. And that is a latest research. The microbiota is conquering brain, lung function capacity, heart, kidney, liver, because these microbiota produces larger amount of immunoglobulins, larger amount of precursors of hormones, precursors of neurohormones, and they decide the fate of each and every organ is the recent research in the last very few years, less than a decade, and it is termed as the second brain. Stomach is termed as a second brain with 450 species of bacteria which conquer the whole body and the body system, and that also directly influences lung function capacity and lungs and oxygen carrying capacity. As far as our modern science is concerned, biochemistry is concerned, excess oxygen is toxic in cells. Yes, we heard about the physicians talking about excess oxygen is toxic in cells. Yes, that's what modern science, I agree. The medical oxygen or industrial oxygen, when it is supplied as a standalone oxygen, is definitely in excess, is definitely toxic. But at the same time, excess oxygen supplied to cells during sports activity and physical activity has no scientific evidence. Excess oxygen in ventilators and hyperbaric chambers, even sometimes toxic and leading to death. Enhancing lung function capacity through breathing exercises like pranayama, which are taught by some of the Indian saints and rishis, formulated strategies for breathing as part of fundamental rights of the body, or have exceptions for this modern science. Excess oxygen is medicine for cells. That is what the traditional science teaches. And the traditional science, be it system of Ayurveda, medical science, or Siddha, it teaches pranayama as a method of increasing oxygen levels in the body cells. And it is used as a preventive care, and is also used as a curative purpose, and also used to increase on a daily basis the oxygen supplies to the body. Had we been as a hunter-gatherer, we do not have to worry about pranayama and this kind of breathing exercises to play a significant role in the body. Because if we consider we as a natural animal, our body activities, our natural instinct, and we go by close environmental interactions, supplies everything in optimum levels. But when we destined to adopt a corporate lifestyle at home, in an office environment, so we reduce the oxygen intake, and as a result of that, we are getting into troubles. But all these metabolic disorders, if I want to say in one word, all because of shortage of oxygen in our day-to-day lung function. It's a huge shortfall of oxygen all along, because the way we adopted this lifestyle, the way we sit for hours together, the way we don't make use of our body for physical activities, and the robotic kind of a lifestyle, and the usage of gadgets like laptop, mobile, and the media made urban man as a sedentary robot. And this is a major setback that has created a lot of issues as far as COVID-19 is concerned. The big hue and cry more in urban situations during COVID-19 is just because we don't have a good lung function capacity. We are not able to take even normal level of breathing. As a result, we have to get the medical advice for each and everything. If we consider two sets of population after COVID era, one is educated, urban, belted population. The other one, rural population. The rural population is totally unaffected, whereas the urban population is 100% affected. And the urban population became a victim for this mysterious disease. If I want to say a strong point out of this experience of last 2.5 years, especially with a special reference to our lung function capacity and oxygen to play main role as an immunity booster. Not even a single soldier was affected with COVID-19. Not even a single farming labor was affected, and the lower state of populations which are below poverty line are not being affected. Even they are not aware what's going on in the country, and they are not bothered. The simple reason their lung function capacity is excellent. They make use of their lungs because of their routine physical activities. So the lung function capacity is excellent. As a result, whatever virus comes inside, they don't have the place to stay back inside. Whereas urban population is concerned with the lost lung function capacity due to sedentary lifestyle and robotic lifestyle, created a lot of problems. The moment the virus gets inside, we totally lose our balance, and it creates inflammatory markers out of fear. And we need ventilation. We have the best ventilators the medical field can ever make. That is nothing but our lungs, provided nose to lungs, nose breathing to lungs is properly set right. More than 50% of the urban population today, the educated, well-settled, well-to-do urban population, more than 50% of them are unable to breathe through nose, is the fact in this 21st century. More than 50% of the population, urban population, educated people and well-to-do people are unable to breathe continuously through nose. Majority of them using mouth as a source of respiration is not good for health. So nose only respiration and increasing the lung function capacity is the subject matter that we need to discuss. The US research, army research, what is called the Armed Water Research, Army Research Institute from America, published a very interesting research paper on why COVID-19 did not have any impact on soldiers. The simple reason, the first one, they said it's a discipline. That means I follow circadian rhythm, I follow my biological clock where I am living, and I have better food culture. That means I eat 3 times a day, and I do workout for my body for normal breathing. As a result, I produce a good amount of immunoglobulins and antibodies. So I am not getting, you get infected, but the microbial population will not be able to stay back or survive in the lungs. So the viral particles are everywhere. It's not that we use a mask and we are totally away from viral particles. No, the viral particles from hospitals or from patients, it's all being emanated and disseminated into the atmospheric air. And this air that we inhale along with the viral particles, it it's omnipresent everywhere. But what you can do is, if you're able to strengthen your lungs and lung function capacity for the body and to make use of maximum amount of oxygen in cells, that prevents the rapid multiplication of this virus. As a result, the virus will infect, but the virus will be made. Oxygen makes even the virus cells as virustatic agents. If you do a good amount of breathing exercise, the same oxygen acts as a virustatic agent. That is what the olden days, the traditional science teaches as pranayama. The pranayama is taught as a preventive care, as well as to boost our immunity and also to cure some of the diseases, especially respiratory diseases. Oxygen is a part of immune system. Oxygen is part and parcel to safeguard the immune system. The more the oxygen, it directly prevents the microbial multiplication. Oxygen itself acts as a virustatic agent. And we know this is not virucidal. It acts as a virustatic agent. It doesn't permit the bacteria or virus to multiply rapidly and congregate and dominate. And the more oxygen in the cells, oxygen facilitates and helps to kill these microbes and stops their functions and proliferation, and all the chemical reactions that have triggered in the cells are being offset, provided we have a better respiratory function, that is lung function capacity. Thereby we consume more amount of oxygen and supply more oxygen. The proofs that I would like to give as a references of oxygen is critical for eye function. Even the cornea receives oxygen directly from the air. Supplies from through lungs is one aspect. Another aspect, even some part of some organs in the body directly receives oxygen from the atmospheric air. Number two, when the hyperbaric oxygen, it is nothing but a big cage-like structure where the oxygen is supplied, especially to treat the patients with the fireborne injuries. Helps a lot, and it supplies more than 10-fold oxygen to the cells, and it recovers the patients much faster. That means oxygen can act as an anti-inflammatory. Oxygen works to support the immune system, and oxygen directly reduces the multiplication of the virus and bacteria. Yes, oxygen helps body to fight off infections. Oxygen itself, that is why, coming back to the fundamental rights of the body, if the lung function capacity is excellent and we are able to use our lungs properly as a semi-arboreal animal to provide optimal levels of oxygen, the sedentary life, sitting in front of a laptop and without a body movement, is applicable for a robot, not for the semi-arboreal animal like humans. You need to be active. You need to be active every time, all the time. And that's what the fundamental rights of the body. And keeping idle for an hour or 2 or 8 hours or 10 hours is poisonous. And that's what creates less oxygen in the body, and body cells suffocate out of less oxygen. And as a result, the infections multiply like anything and conquer the body. And this is the simple reason educated, well-to-do urban population living most of the time within the 4 walls of the room, be it a corporate office or a home. We have made our own space stations. I call this as a space station. It's almost like a space station because we have an air condition and we have a laptop, and we all feel that we know everything, what's going on in the universe. and everything is in the fingertips. But what's happening is we are not consuming enough amount of oxygen to make our hardware survive disease-free. Oxygen directly acts as an anti-cancer substance, and it suppresses growth. More oxygen, if it is supplied, even the cancer growth can be prevented. Even in most of the settings where required, when we practice a chemotherapy patients in parallel, the oxygen therapy is given, and the results are fantastic. But oxygen therapy is given as a part of practice to make use of their own ventilators in a proper manner, in an extended levels to add more oxygen to cells. Cells needs more and additional oxygen to fight and kill germs as well as cancer cells. See, there are biological markers, and this is the oxygen sensing proteins that are felt by cells. And the prolyl hydrolase domain protein is an oxygen sensing protein, and it acts within the T cells to prevent strong immune responses to harmless infections to prevent. And even it stops implantation of the infectious particles. This is what the microbiology and biochemistry. But fundamentally, what is lacking is how to increase the lung function capacity so that we don't fear for COVID-like a problem, and we produce a more amount of antibodies and immunoglobulins to fight against the invading microbes. Hemoglobin is a carrier, we know, and wherever there is a low level of hemoglobin, there is a shortage of oxygen. And a low level of hemoglobin, low level of immunity responses. And the references are something like low hemoglobin. People have trouble in breathing because they will not be able to cope up with the lung function capacity, because hemoglobin and oxygen has to work in tandem with each other, because hemoglobin is the supplier of oxygen to each and every cell. If it is not being supplied optimally, the cells underperform. As a result, the physical and biological errors happen inside the cells. They underperform, they underproduce. As a result, we get erratic metabolism, erratic hormones, incomplete neurohormones. As a result, metabolic disorders, as well as life-like diseases, like any viral infections in lungs, we are not able to manage. Low hemoglobin means low oxygen. That means more inflammation. It's very clear. So low oxygen always maintains inflammation in cells, and that is the big threat for all the diseases, especially for respiratory viral diseases. All these three are the oxygen transport proteins. In higher animals, we have hemoglobin and myoglobin. Hemoglobin is well known, and myoglobin is a protein which additionally supports the striated muscles, particularly the heart muscles, as well as bone joints and ligaments. These are all called striated muscles. They need additional support, and these myoglobins collect oxygen and supply to them, besides hemoglobin, which is the main transporter of oxygen. And this is also equally important. When the muscles are damaged, myoglobin in muscle cells are released to the bloodstream, and that is a biomarker. And that's one of the biomarker. When the inflammation is increased, also we'll be able to see that the muscle myoglobin are released into the bloodstream. That means low oxygen. Giving additional input of oxygen by way of natural ventilation, using our own ventilators for maximum production of oxygen in lungs and to body cells is important for maintaining body immunity. Low oxygen means low immunity, and supply of less oxygen always maintains inflammation in the body that reduces the total immunity. Let's look at a few things what we know from the ancient Greek Hippocrates, which is given an example by all the Europeans. Almost all Western people give a reference from Greek Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine. I mean, this is before formulating homeopathy or allopathy. He can be treated as the Indian Rishi or Saint Agastya, who is also the father of art and science of well-being in this part of subcontinent. That means from India. And one side Hippocrates, on the other side Indian Agastya, can be referred for many of these things, who formulated strategies and guidelines for welfare of the human beings. And what they said several thousand years ago is true even today. And let's look at what the Greek Hippocrates pointed out about the importance of oxygen. Greek Hippocrates told three things. One is do little exercise and walk a little. Do not eat to saturation. These three things are the common guidelines of both the Indian Agastya and Greek Hippocrates. Little exercise means you are consuming more lung function and more oxygen. And little walk means you are walking, as a result, your lung function capacity increases and you consume more oxygen. And do not eat to saturation means the Indian Agastya also prescribes it's 50% of the stomach must be filled, not 70% or 100, because the Indian Agastya says 50% stomach should be filled and 25% should be for water and 25% should be for oxygen to work. That means oxygen is not only used through lungs to pump oxygen to cells, but also in the stomach, because in the recent research, stomach living bacteria, which are 450 species of bacteria, entirely thrives on stomach supplied oxygen through mouth, making a significant role in conquering almost all the organs, including brain. I mean, stomach also must be supplied with oxygen. That is why these, the philosopher guides and the people who are part and parcel of our healthcare system, ancient days, stressed upon the need for more activity and more oxygen. The more activity, more oxygen is the problem even today. Let's look at what Indian Agastya, with his team of 18 members who are the learned people, formed what is called Siddha, art and science of well-being. Siddha is another medical system, ancient medical system, which is similar to Ayurveda, and both were known for their common origin from the Indian Rishi Agastya and his 18-member team of traditional scientists, we can call, who formulated the strategies and guidelines for art and science of well-being. So he says oxygen is prana vayu, which is nothing but the life part of substance. And if you can retain that through a practice called pranayama, you can optimize your metabolic activities, you can prevent infections, and many more. I'm just giving a few examples of what has been claimed for pranayama by Agastya. Pranayama means consume more oxygen, simple as that. Increase your oxygen carrying capacity of your lungs. Make bioavailability of oxygen maximum to the cells. How do you do that? there are certain procedures to perform. Pranayama means more oxygen, and it corrects any anomalies, any problem anywhere in the cells. And also pranayama is being given training to train lungs, heart, brain axis to work in tandem with each other. As a result, the component of oxygen can be separated from the biological system body at will. That's a great science which needs a lot of research input to establish, but it's already been established a fact of life in the last few generations, not in this 21st century. So pranayama means nothing but a mere practice to increase your lung function capacity, thereby making oxygen bioavailable and pump oxygen more to cells to be omnipresent. As a result, it takes care of the wear and tear and create immunity, resist the biological organisms that enter, whether it enters through mouth or enters through the skin pores or it enters through lungs. And it has got the inherent power to prevent these microorganisms multiplication. The recent research talks about what is called hyperbaric chamber, which is a common practice in other countries very commonly, but in India, only very few hospitals will have hyperbaric chamber, because this increases tenfold increase oxygen in plasma oxygen when you subject a patient to hyperbaric chamber. That means that hyperoxygenated plasma and red blood cells performs fantastic and omnipresent when you are inside the hyperbaric chamber. It brings down inflammation rapidly and safeguards the patient, and it recovers the fireburn wound patients which are at a critical stage to come out of the problem. That means that oxygen, you can create a small oxygen saturated atmosphere in terms of hyperbaric chamber, which can act as a medicine, which can act as a trigger. That means if we are active, we can make use of our own ventilators. That means more oxygen, make bioavailability of oxygen more. As a result, keep away from these infections, totally away from these infections. And that is what we pronounce as pranayama as a practice in an ancient science. Can we call oxygen is an operating system for a biological body? As far as the modern science is concerned, be it chemistry or biology, we call oxygen is meant for energy conversion. No. Oxygen is an operating system. This needs some supporting evidences to establish. This is not a philosophy. Conceptually well established by our well-trained rishis and saints who formulated strategies and guidelines for oxygen to be used as a powerful tool to make everything in the body. So in that sense, oxygen is an operating system for a biological. It's like any other operating system for a computer. Without operating system, the computer has got no value. That means the physical body as a hardware has got no role to play if the operating system is off. If the operating system is pulled out, that means that when the oxygen is given, the operating system is on and it is omnipresent in all the cells to operate them. And if this oxygen as an operating system is off for a few seconds, and it is called a different body. So the biological system is totally off. The biological system cannot operate in any other system. Oxygen is an operating system, is not an exaggeration, and needs a documentary evidence to be produced. And a lot of research can get into this fundamentally and in applied research as well. So oxygen is an operating system, is an understanding to provoke thoughts of some of the members of scientists who are working in the field of chemistry and biology. A lot more can be worked out because COVID-19 has given plenty of opportunities, challenges, how to do that. And oxygen itself as a topic, if considered as an operating system, there are a lot more can be done in fundamental research as well as in applied research. If we understand oxygen is an operating system for a biological body and loaded to function a biological system after birth, and pulled out or stopped, the biological system is completely collapsed. That means a shortage of oxygen underperforms cell activities. Shortage of oxygen leads to incomplete cellular procedures, incomplete digestion, incomplete assimilation, reactions, thereby triggers all metabolic disorders that we are coming across today. Shortage of oxygen triggers biosynthesis of plague cells, create stroke and heart attacks, cause metabolic disorders and genetic disorders. Oxygen is an operating system to work. The biological system is not an exaggeration. And we are doing some research to make people understand and train the youngsters in the 22nd century to be metabolic disorder free, making them understand oxygen is an operating system. So we have been roaming around oxygen shortage. Even a couple of plants maintained at indoor can provide you a good amount of oxygen. We formulated a strategy during peak COVID era, and we circulated it to majority of them to keep 5 potted plants, majority of the population, urban population, to keep 5 potted plants inside the carrying capacity of the lungs, and availability of pure oxygen is question mark. Keeping 5 plants can give you very good amount. This is nothing but a concentrator. It's a concentrator, and it's a oxygen producer, and which gives you a good amount of oxygen, and you feel much better in terms of breathing and well-being is concerned if you keep 5 plants indoor. Remember, all these plants give carbon dioxide when you keep inside in daytime. In night hours, they give oxygen. It's very important to note. If you keep indoors and during daytime, you will get more amount of carbon dioxide through the plants. But keep the windows open. During night hours, you get a good amount of oxygen. You have a peaceful sleep. Your memory power will be excellent. And the next day, morning, very amount of oxygen. I think with this a presentation, I will leave to the forum if there are any questions to be addressed.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking and wonderful presentation. Now the session is open for questions. Dear participants, you can post your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and directly you can ask your questions. Dear participants, you can ask your questions now. Sir, there is a question in the chat box. What is oxidative stress?
Pardon, ma'am?
What is oxidative stress? I have asked a question like this, sir.
What
is oxidative stress?
Fundamentally, wherever there is a short supply of oxygen, there is an oxidative stress, because oxygen must be omnipresent and it should be unconditionally available, provided the lung function capacity is proper. Otherwise, in today's situations, because of the lifestyle that we have oxidative stress is felt in every cells, and every cell underperforms. It produces incomplete enzymes. It produces incomplete hormones. It produces incomplete neurohormones. Every biochemical, biosynthesized or undergoing oxidative stress today in cells. That means the short supply of oxygen produce oxidative stress in every point of chemical reaction, because every chemical reaction must be facilitated by one molecule of oxygen. Without a molecule of oxygen in cell, no single reaction can take place. That's what is called as oxidative stress.
Thank you, sir. Next, there's a question. How can swimmers can balance oxygen in their cells?
Yeah. The practice, I will quote back again the practice of pranayama from the ancient days. The words of Greek Hippocrates and the great Indian saint Agastya. If you can train your lungs, the lungs is trained, synchronized with the brain and the heart to hold maximum amount of time, retains the oxygen and circulates. When the oxygen, once you have the habit of intake a deep, long breath by practice, and the cells will be able to sustain for a longer time to optimize and make use of the oxygen that you supplied. Example, today's situation, most of us take breath every half a second. Every half a second taking one breathing. That means one lung function cycle is taken nowadays by urbanized half a second, which is worse than a breathing habit of albino rat. If I want to say, if you compare, if we are breathing like an albino rat, just half a second, this 70, 80 kg a human breathing half a second cannot supply adequate oxygen. But at the same time, the swimmers, if they are trained like the people who are doing pranayama, who can train their lungs and cells to sustain more oxygen through a deeper and longer inhaling practices, can sustain and optimize oxygen in cells. There's a great science behind it. Both you can compare pranayama and swimmers practices to sustain longer.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, please give the name of oxygen producing plants that we can keep in indoors.
We are all technical sages, and we know if you just look at tulsi itself is a good oxygen, it gives a large amount of oxygen. Even the money plant gives a large amount of oxygen. Keeping only 5 plants indoor, your sleep will be peaceful, your memory power will be sharp, and the next day will be perfect. It's a simple science, but it's a common sense. We can do that very well.
Thank you, sir. And there's a next question. How excess oxygen becomes toxic in the cells?
As per modern science and medical science, the pure medical oxygen is supplied externally becomes toxic because the cells are not able to withstand the pressure. The lung epithelial cells are not able to withstand the pressure. As a result, what is called oxygen toxicity happens. But in the case of natural breathing, where the air is inhaled through a particular practice, or an example of a sports person or a runner or an athlete or a person who is doing a pranayama, and they consume much more larger amount of air to pump through lungs to percolate and then increase the oxygen levels by natural way, never been shown any toxicity to cells. Only the medical oxygen, pure oxygen, when it is supplied to lungs, which is not biologically compatible. But for no other way, when there is a breakdown, we need to admit oxygen, medical oxygen, pure oxygen into lungs.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what is the role of metals in inducing oxygen? What
Sorry?
is the role of metals in inducing oxygen? Sir, can I
If
repeat,
you
sir?
look at, yeah,
What is the role of metals in inducing oxygen?
as in the first slide, if you look at first few slides, the majority of the oxygen source is available in the form of oxides in the crust of Earth. On the outer crust of Earth, the majority of the oxygen source is available as in the form of oxides, and these oxides also transform into oxygen from time to time by weathering and the natural process. So even the metal oxides contribute a lot for oxygen availability, prevalence, and presence on Earth. It's not that it's only the plants that produce oxygen. No, large part of oxygen is available as in the form of oxides of various substances, including metals.
Thank you, sir, for answering all our queries. I'm very happy to invite Dr. A. Parveen Sultana, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, to propose the vote of.
In the name of Lord Almighty, I wish a very good afternoon to all who are connected here. Develop an attitude of gratitude and give thanks for everything that happens to you, knowing that every step forward is a step towards achieving something bigger and better. It's my pleasant privilege to propose a vote of thanks at the end of the 5th day of FDP on exploring new frontiers in chemical and biological science under the Star College scheme sponsored by DBT New Delhi and organized by Marian Star Center, Department of Chemistry, St. Mary's College. First, I thank Lord Almighty for sharing his blessings to conduct this program. I thank our speaker of the day, Dr. Parthipan Maributhu, for his wonderful presentation. Really, this day has become more interesting and more informative in this current scenario. Thank you, sir. I owe a deep sense of gratitude to our secretary, Reverend Sister Flora Mary, our principal, Reverend Dr. Sister A.S.J. Lucia Rose, our vice principal, Reverend Dr. Sister Kulandai Teres, overall coordinator of DBT Star College scheme, Reverend Dr. Sister Oroke Genesius Alphonse, head of the department, Mrs. S. Rani J. Mary, organizing secretary, Dr. T. Linda Fernando, and other organizing committee members for supporting us to organize this program in a planned way. I thank the faculty members of our colleges and other colleges whose presence makes this program successful in an apple pie order. I especially thank Ms. Pauline Jennifer and Ms. Patricia Romila, who are working against the clock to make this program lively like clockwork in the online platform. Once again, I thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable time with us.
Thank you very much to one and all participated in this session. Thanks a lot.
Dear participants, kindly note attendance cum feedback link is posted in chat box. Kindly fill the form within the stipulated time. Dear participants, kindly note tomorrow the session is from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Thank you, dear participants. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ma. It's my pleasure to make use of this opportunity.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch. It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sure, we will all have indoor plants today, sir.
I wish you all the best, Ma. It's all about the forgotten values, but nothing but fundamental rights of our body. Thank you. Bye-bye. So can I leave the room?
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sir, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.